You're cracking with your teeth.
Yeah.
Hey, show me another one.
No, give me the apple. Give me the apple.
Cracking with your teeth. Hey, there you go. I think it was a nut, not my tooth.
It's bush tucker, native Australian food, a natural resource known to few other than Aboriginal people and the Australian Army's bush tucker man. Much of our north is like this. It's the main reason why the population here is so sparse. This mostly is the domain of Aboriginal people. They've been living off the natural resources of this land for more than 40,000 years and are the only race that has been able to do so. Unaided, few other Australians could survive here for long. There are isolated pockets of civilization, but they're hundreds and sometimes thousands of kilometres apart. Yet this vast wilderness between Cape York and the Kimberley is the border between us and the rest of the world. Some say it's our most vulnerable frontier. We might have to fight here one day, and then many of us might have to survive here too. Such a prospect has led the Australian Army to undertake the first study in 200 years of the survival resources of Northern Australia. The project was proposed by Major Les Hiddens of Field Force Command, a bush survival expert with a lifelong interest in Australian natural history. A soldier aware of the military value of Aboriginal food-gathering skills. To prepare him for the task, Les in 1980 was granted a Defence Fellowship to study at James Cook University in Townsville. There he did research into the ethnobotany of Northern Australia, and since has become the Army's bush tucker expert.
My job is to look at the survival resources, the bush foods, the bush medicines, the bush techniques, so we can advise soldiers, particularly those who are born and bred in cities, on how to exist should they become lost, or in the case of, patrols like the SAS or the North Force Group, how to exist out in the bush by supplementing their rations off the local foods. To do this, we kicked it off from scratch, and I was given the task to go around and liaise with Aboriginal communities right throughout Northern Australia. And I guess today I've liaised probably with about 40 or 50 different communities, and they extend right through Cape York Peninsula, right up the top end of Arnhem Land, Kimberleys, and this year I'm also doing the central part. When I say liaise with communities, what I mean is I go in, seek out the older people generally, sometimes the younger people as well, and ask them to show me, a white fella, all about their particular backyard, about their bush foods, and about the knowledge that they have for that environmental area. They're very happy to do that, and I'm most grateful for their help too, I might add. Moving around these communities, I pick up different resources, different foods, and gradually, over a long, extended period of time, put it all together, and we build up a bit of a word picture and a bit of an idea of what is available out in the bush. I should also go on to mention that prior to this project commencing a few years ago, we had no knowledge. And that's generally true of our whole society, our whole country, because this sort of information is something that we really haven't bothered with, even though we've now been in here, in this landscape, for nearly 200 years. And now, someone is coming to grips with it. In this particular case, it's the Australian Army. It's also, of course, a contribution to the national estate, because it is part of our nation and it is part of our heritage, and we should know this sort of information. We don't have to go and use it, but we should have some idea of what our own countryside, what our own landscape is all about.
Major Hiddens estimates that there are more than 800 natural survival resources in Northern Australia. Already he has identified and catalogued over 400 bush resources that could be used for food or medicinal purposes. Few Australians would recognise, let alone use such products for food or medicine. This is not only because they're alien to our culture. Psychologically, most of us have been conditioned to accept food mainly in its modern forms, and that outlook is apparent everywhere, even in this remote Aboriginal community settlement of Columbaroo, in the far northwest of the Kimberley.
What's happened in our society today is this. All of our food groups, or most of them, have become processed and packaged. And the end result of that is that people have a great deal of difficulty identifying the original food resource. Now, in this case, this is a packet of tomato soup. We all know that, we all enjoy it and use it quite often. But if I were to take that back to my great-grandmother and say, hey, listen, how about knocking up some soup for us tonight from this packet? She'd wonder what I was on about. Because to her, soup was made by the tomatoes that grew out the backyard. She'd go and pick them, mash them up, and serve them up. I guess that 50% of people who use this type of soup and this type of food wouldn't know a tomato bush if they fell over it. The same can be said for something like this. This is corned beef, but the relationship between this tin and the original bullock out in the paddock is very far indeed. Today, the whole processing and packaging of food has been taken that one step further, because in the last 10 to 15 years, we've got that new invention, deep freeze. Come and I'll show you what it does to it. My poor old grandmother would turn in the grave if she could see this lot. Hang on, we'll get a couple out. Well, if I presented that to her and said that that's a chook, she'd really wonder. It's got a plastic skin and it's rock hard. This lot here, fish fingers. Wonder what she'd say if she could see these. We'll open them up and have a look inside. I guess if I asked her what that was, she'd say it was a biscuit. But in fact, and we all know it, it's fish. The processing of food has just gone so far that it's really extremely difficult to identify that original base product. Fish in a pack. From our point of view in the Army, the problem of getting soldiers out in the field to identify bush foods was pretty complicated. After all, in Northern Australia, I think we've got about 600 species. How do we train a soldier, who probably grew up in Redfern or somewhere like that, to come up here to Northern Australia, walk around the paddock and identify the bush tucker? Additionally, the seasonal variation of what was available was a greater problem. We could, I suppose, print a book or books showing pictures of the bush tucker, but the soldier would end up walking around the place looking like a library. What we came up with was this. It's one of our Army survey maps. And on one side it shows just the ordinary topo survey information. But you turn it over, and there on the reverse side is all the bush food for that particular map area. These things were out about a week, and the soldiers christened them snack maps. Of course, we're now putting them out with chocolate flavour and all the rest of it, so that if all else fails, you can eat the map.
There are difficulties, but the snack maps go a long way towards solving the problems. Each map covers an area of approximately 150 square kilometres, and on its reverse side is depicted the most important survival resources of that region. Alongside each picture is information on where the resource is to be found, in what season, how it should be prepared, what it tastes like, and what its nutritional or medicinal value is. The research program will allow the publication of over 700 snack maps, but before that can be accomplished, Les Hiddens has much more field work to undertake. He has completed Cape York Peninsula and most of Arnhem Land, but the Gulf Country and the Pilbara remain to be done. This year, he is concentrating on completing research in the central and northwest deserts and here in the Kimberley, where he is being helped by people from Columbaroo. Billabongs have always been an important source of food for these people, yielding aquatic foods such as fish, turtles, yabbies and mussels. But it's the plant life rather than the water creatures that they wish to show Les.
This one here. Same as that one, aren't they? Ah, but different one to this one here.
No, this is different on this one.
What, the root or what?
Yeah, that is finished now. That is dug now.
But the one there
Yeah,
comes off this one here.
he comes up this one now.
What, under roots in the mud?
Yeah, now he the mud.
Right. All right. How do you eat him?
Aye. Well, when you cook him,
You just cook him on the hot coal.
yeah.
Yeah, this one ashes.
I just
Sometimes
yeah.
you boil it too with again.
Right. You boil him too, or cook him on the ashes?
And ashes.
I did it.
Yeah. And what's it taste like? Good tuck?
Good, yeah. Good one.
Good dog.
All these lilies around here,
Yeah,
Yeah.
good one.
they all got this on them.
All got the one.
Yeah, some small, some more
And
bigger.
some big one.
More bigger, more round, yeah.
More
That's
big
a-
one, you know.
So that's a little one, eh?
That's the little one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
at the hot coals.
The water lily is an important food resource as it has an energy value equivalent to beef steak. But more than its tubers are edible. Its flower petals and the white stalks of its leaves are nourishing vegetables too.
What about that leaf? You can eat that leaf too?
No,
Not at all.
not that. Only that what they got pretty good, you know.
Right.
That, you know.
And get him all year, dry time, wet time, all times.
Yeah.
All year.
But he could be growing by now.
Yeah.
But they got him that pretty good.
Yeah. All right. What do you want the tummy milk for?
You might find them. You go back and cut him up, put that on the milk, you know.
All right. If you can't find him, I've got the axe there anyway.
Yeah,
Put him
well,
in.
never mind.
Big axe. Hammer one. Okay.
Look at.
Yeah. Put this one here.
Yeah.
That's the bee there.
Yeah.
For a sugar bag. How do you get him out? You chop him out. Ah.
Tasting is part of Les's job, as taste is important in the description of the food resource. Snack maps provide such information, and where possible, equate it with a European food.
This is probably the most favoured food of the Aboriginal people. These days they call it sugar bag. And it was
Wana.
popular, wala, locally.
Wana.
Sorry, wanna.
Wana.
Wanna. Wanna. There you
Sugar
go.
bag. Wana.
Wanna. Anyway, as I was saying, it's probably the most popular food throughout Northern Australia and even Southern Australia. It was used and sought after extensively. It's made by the native bee, the trigona, these little fly-looking things you can see flying around behind me here. Fortunately for us, they've got no sting, so we can dig into their hive or cut down their trees, etc., to extract the honey. Now, you might think honey is honey, but in fact it's not. Because when we analyse this bush food honey, the sugar bag, or this wanya, we
Right.
find that the energy value is about 20% greater than the honey you buy out of the shop. It's most unusual to find sugar bag in an ant nest like this. Most often it's found in trees. We don't really care where it's found at the moment because it tastes absolutely delightful.
Nutritional analysis of foods is undertaken by the Defence Food Science Laboratory at Scottsdale in northern Tasmania. It receives from Les frozen capsule samples of each food he collects.
Yeah. Hey, that's a big one, eh?
Big one.
Another one too?
Yams, the underground tubers of an infinite variety of vines, were a staple food for Aboriginal people in traditional times. They're rather like potatoes, and many species grow throughout northern Australia. Some require special preparation. This is a yam species Les has not seen before.